Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swirsky's Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swirsky's Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swirsky, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swirsky, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swirsky Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we have Bears back-to-back victories. Yes, back-to-back victories. We have the end of a great but frustrating Cubs season, Bulls being Bulls, and Blackhawks still looking good. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Season has already started, so head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more, and tell them Swirsky Sports sent you. Alex, my friend, it has been a busy week in Chicago sports.
Yes, it has. There's some good to talk about, there's some bad to talk about, and some in between, I guess.
And some ugly.
Yeah, and some ugly.
Where would you like to start from, my friend?
Well, why don't we start off on a positive note, and let's talk about Little Victory Sunday. How shall we do that?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to speak about our beloved Chicago Bears. Today, I thought the Bears had a very good chance of winning this game. Not taking anything away from Carolina Panthers, but the Bears really struggle against just high-powered offenses. And Carolina has a potential to be a very good offense, but they're struggling a little bit, but they've got a good defense. So I said, I think this makes for a decent matchup for the Bears, and it turned out that way.
Yeah, I mean, watching today's game, I don't think I've had as much fun watching the Bears defense play both this week and last week in years. I mean, it reminded us all about those good Bears defenses that won the Bears games, whether it was the early to mid 2000s or even kind of in the last Lovey years when the defense would put up a lot of points, and that's what we saw today. I mean, 14 of the 17 points put up on the board by the Bears were defensive touchdowns.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch, and it's funny because when you're watching the games, is in a lot of those great defensive eras that you were mentioning, the defense was extremely what's the word I'm thinking of? Frustrated with the offense because the offense was so futile. And although the offense isn't doing a lot right now, I feel like it's a positive not doing a lot. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I just feel like they still bring an energy, like it's a cohesive team when they go out there, even when they're not performing great. It's because I don't know if it's because they're running the ball fairly well, or if it's just the positivity around Mitch Trubisky's future, or what. But I just get this sense of some sort of positivity and cohesiveness with this team rather than offense versus defense.
Well, look, when I watched this game, when I watched the plays unfold, whether it was the big defensive plays or it was after the game, going into the locker room after the game was over, you saw kind of this swagger that they had when they were good. And I think that Trubisky coming in, being this all-future asset, kind of gave them a bit of a positive energy because I definitely think there's a huge difference in the way they are playing, quote, energy-wise under Mitchell Trubisky than Mike Glennon. I just feel like there's a lot more positivity. I feel like there's a lot more smiles on the sideline when they do show the sideline. And I just think that they're going out with a better attitude, kind of saying, we're not going to let other teams beat us. We're going to beat them. And I just didn't see that as much in the beginning of the year, even though they did play in some close games and did beat the Steelers. I just think that you're right, that there is some sort of new energy that we're experiencing, not only just the team and the coaches, but the whole fan base as well.
I feel like it's because they see the things that Trubisky can do, and he is managing the game very well. He's calling there's no issues with calling the plays, getting the plays in. He's not making the mistakes that Mike Glennon was making. When Mike Glennon would go out there, you would just feel like impending disaster was just ready to pounce from around the corner. But with Trubisky out there, you don't. I mean, at least I don't get that sense. And I think it's sort of backed up in and look at the quarterback rating. Is sure, Mitch Trubisky only threw 7 passes today, but his quarterback rating was 101.8.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, 2 of those 4 passes got him most of those yards, and both of those passes were beautiful downhill dimes, especially the one to Terry Cohen that was, just over 70 yards? I mean, that's the kind of thing that you watch happen, and you're like, boy, oh boy, if this is what he's going to bring on a regular basis, then we got to feel really good about ourselves. And, I think it is kind of a shame that he doesn't have a lot around him. He has a bunch of third-string wide receivers that can't get open. The offensive tackles struggle, and he got sacked several times in this game. And, yeah, I mean, they're really pounding the run, and some predictable play calling at times. But when you see his raw talent work, or at least show something, I think it gets everyone fired up.
Yeah, I think so too. And there was a other target that he had with Tariq Cohen where Cohen caught it, but he just stepped out of bounds. That was a long pass. So you're just seeing that, imagine if he had a legit wide receiver to throw to and not a 5'6" running back that's playing wide receiver.
Right. If he had receivers, if he had some more tackles that could block for him, yeah, I mean, really.
I mean, the Bears offense, the 2 tackles are getting beat pretty badly on pass downs. This unit is pretty darn good against the run, and pretty run blocking, but pass blocking, they're just not giving him the time. You're not seeing windows opening up with these wide receivers because we don't have a number 1. We don't have a number 2. We don't even have a number 3. We've just got some scrub running our wide receivers.
Kendall Wright's our best guy right now.
Yes. And he's a guy that, what's he making, $3 million a year as a free agent?
Something like
along
that.
those lines. So it's not like he's a highly coveted guy. He would probably be a number 3 on most teams. And he's by far and away our best wide receiver.
Yeah, and this whole thing is really showing how losing Cam Meredith hurts.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a thing where we, as Bears fans, have to face reality, is this wide receiver core is not going to get help anytime soon. There's nobody out there.
Right, and it's not like calling up Tanner Gentry from the practice squad is going to make this big, huge difference. It's not.
No, they cut Deontay Thompson and are seeing what Tanner Gentry can do, and part of it is they've faced some pretty tough defenses to this point, Baltimore and Pittsburgh and Minnesota and the Panthers. They've faced some really tough defenses along the way. Atlanta, they're going to start seeing some weaker and weaker defenses, and you're going to see Trubisky have a little more time, and hopefully we can see that translate into better wide receiver play.
Yeah, definitely. You're definitely right. I mean, look at the Panthers line. That's a really good line, and they were really all over the Bears offense all day. Even when they were getting some good blocking on the run plays, you saw that Panthers defense really close in, and that's pretty tough for a rookie quarterback. Yet, the throws he did make, I mean, the deep ball to Cohen, the passes to Zach Miller, I mean, he was still getting them off and throwing accurately. It's hard to get a lot of throws off or have a lot of throwing plays when you know that he's going to be bottled up. Now, I do think that in the future, as we go along, if they want to win games, they can't pound the run as much as they have. They said it on the radio, and I agree. You're not going to get away with this week after week. But, it's kind of the whole process that we have to go along here, and hopefully things come together more and more. But unfortunately, we're not going to get any better receivers anytime soon, like you said.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm fine with this game plan if they're doing it knowing that they're like, hey, listen, we've got a quarterback that's young, playing against some tough defenses. I know a lot of people that were professional sportscasters and former players that were calling for Trubisky, and they were saying, start him after the bye week because those first 8 games are against some pretty tough defenses. Start him fresh from the bye where he's not going to get beat up. And they put him in some of the teeth of these defenses, and they've sort of sheltered him a little bit by really establishing the run. And I'm okay with that when you're facing the Pittsburghs and the Baltimores and the Minnesotas and the Panthers. But if they do that same thing against the Saints, they do that same thing against the 49ers and the Lions and the Browns, I'm going to be pretty upset because those are teams that you should be able to start opening up again.
Yeah, and let's face it, you're facing a New Orleans team that you're going to need to put points on the board because they put a lot of points on the board, and New Orleans is a team that relies on, scoring 30, 40 and giving up just a little less. So you got to take advantage of that New Orleans defense that really isn't very good, and you're going to have to mix things up a little bit, and you're going to have to throw more. You're going to have to play call some things a little differently because you got to keep up with it. And as good as this Bears defense has been, shutting down that New Orleans offense is not going to be easy, especially playing in New Orleans. It's one of the toughest places to play.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to need to put some points on the board, offensive points. So if the Bears, their game plan is going to be still just pound the ball and only throw when they need to, it's going to be a long afternoon for the Bears next weekend. I think they're really going to have to open it up a little bit as best they can. And yeah, they're going to quote Lovey, they're going to want to hit the ground running, but they're going to have to do a lot more passing. They're going to have to have Mitch Trubisky do some designed scrambles to loosen up that defense. And they're going to have to just start opening up the playbook a little more because although that defense is good, a quarterback like Drew Brees could pick them apart if they give him time. Yeah, and just speaking of the defense, is this defense, from last year is leaps and bounds better, but even from week 1, week 2, we're seeing so much better play from not only the defensive line, but especially the secondary.
Yeah, because these past 2 weeks, we're actually kind of seeing a full unit function. I mean, look at the way Kyle Fuller has been playing. Look at the way Adrian Amos has been playing. In addition to the front seven, Danny Trevathan had a great game. Akeem Hicks has probably been the Bears MVP so far. So you're seeing everything work as a unit finally, and that's what we've been wanting to see for so long.
Yeah, and you're seeing a lot more of the defense play man-to-man and not so much zone. You're seeing a lot more pass breakups.
Right.
And it was funny during the game. I was just like, why are they going after Kyle Fuller? Because he's playing so incredibly well. He's playing Pro Bowl level. He's playing like the guy that we drafted him to be. And I'm like, so then they go over to Prince Amukamara, and he has a deflection that leads to one of the pick six. And I'm like, okay, well maybe that's why they're not going after Prince Amukamara. And you're seeing Bryce Callahan, Prince Amukamara, Kyle Fuller. You're seeing Eddie Jackson, and you're even starting to see Adrian Amos just figure things out and really come together as a unit, and it's fantastic to see.
And the key to all of this is they're generating turnovers. Something this defense has been so bad at the past year or so. They are actually generating turnovers. Not only that, but they're doing it and turning it into points. So I think that speaks a lot for how much better the secondary has been playing.
Yeah, absolutely. And two things that speak to that is, one, this is the first back-to-back multi-turnover games in the John Fox era with the
Yeah,
Bears.
that's right. I heard that on the radio.
And also, what's nice is you're starting to see coverage sacks, which you haven't seen with the Bears in quite some time, because if the defensive line didn't get to the quarterback quickly, you would see the quarterback make the completion. Now you're seeing the quarterback have to look off this first receiver, second receiver, and by that time the defensive line is starting to get there. So sometimes it's the defensive line helping the defensive backs by getting pressure on the quarterback, but sometimes it's the defensive backs are providing good coverage and it's helping the defensive line. And that's what you've wanted to see for the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there is one thing that still drives me crazy about the defense, and I'm hoping that it's going to improve. But man, they love to surrender 3rd and long conversions. It seems like every time they have them 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15, the other team always, or not always, but a lot of the times seems to find a way to convert, and a lot of the times it's in a really aggravating fashion where they go after the quarterback and they just about to get him, and then they throw a screen pass and they gain like 20, 30 yards. It just seems like that's still kind of a problem, but, I'm not going to complain too much about this defense because it was extraordinary today. That's just one thing I kind of wanted to point out.
I mean, part of that is where Christian Jones is one of our linebackers, and I like the talent he has, but he's also an undrafted rookie that's got limited experience. You've got a rookie safety in Eddie Jackson, and although he has looked so much better than I expected him to be coming out of college, he's still a rookie. So you've got some backups in there who don't have the reps that the starters did, and you've got some younger players that don't have the experience. So sometimes these things happen. There was one time where there was a 3rd down that got converted because Akeem Hicks got a face mask on a great play. He had a fantastic play.
Yeah,
and it just was incidental. I mean, it barely even tugged at his mask, but it was clear as day he did it.
Yeah, you knew it right away.
And that's not a penalty I'm even upset about, because it's one of those things that happens making a good football play. It's sometimes the face mask is just in the wrong place. It's not like you were behind and you reached out to pull him, or one of those lazy plays or stupid plays. It was just a tough football play that just didn't go your way. So I'm okay with things like that give them a 1st down. It sucks to happen, but at least it happened during a good football play.
No, you're definitely right about that one. And, speaking of flags, I gotta say, very well-disciplined game today by the Bears. Not a lot of dumb penalties.
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple of offensive ones, but
Okay, that one sequence was bad.
yeah. Other than that, though, it was actually very impressive. And I know there's a lot of people screaming for John Fox's head right now, and for all the times that I legitimately thought, John Fox deserved to be fired, today was not one of them.
There was one instance where I thought everything was a wreck from top to bottom, and I'm not just talking about John Fox, but it was that delay a game. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That there's no excuse for that. The most controversial thing, though, I think people were talking about was going for it on fourth down. And a lot of people, were really screaming mad at John Fox for it. And though I kind of wanted to go for it myself, and sometimes I think John Fox is a little too careful, whether it's these situations or, quote, playing not to lose, I thought that was a tougher call for people, and part of me was kind of okay with just getting the sure points. Because, look, they might not make it. They may get stuffed on fourth down, and yeah, you'd have him pinned, but watch Cam Newton fire a 30-yard pass to Calvin Benjamin, and all of a sudden things are a little different. So I'm not as mad at John Fox for that one as some other people are.
Yeah, I'm not mad about it. I would have probably gone for it myself.
Me too.
Because you have a mobile quarterback. I mean, just go back to that amazing play that you had for the 2-point conversion. Was that last week?
Yeah. Yeah. Or was that against the Vikings?
I don't remember, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about. You could run that play. You can run an option play. Can you imagine running an option with Tariq Cohen on the outside? Is that, you could go wildcat. There's a lot of things you can do on that half-yard line that's not just line it up with your fullback and pound it in. And I think you run the wildcat, and that's an easy touchdown. I think you run an option, that's an easy touchdown. I think if you do the quarterback sneak, you get it. Just line up behind Cody Whitehair.
Probably.
I wouldn't have lined up in an eye and pounded it in, because Carolina does have a tough defensive line, and
they stuffed him twice already on that drive.
Yeah, so if you're not gonna be creative, then I'm fine just going for the easy points, but I think you have a lot of options.
I agree, and I said I would have gone for it too, but I'm not as mad about it as other people.
And honestly, I think Dow Loggins is maybe game in, game out. There's some questionable plays, but I think his game plan has been for the last several games has been pretty darn good. It's not sexy. It's not what we want to see. It hasn't generated a ton of yards or a ton of points, but it's kept Bears in games. It's gotten victories, and lining up Tariq Cohen as a wide receiver to help generate yardage was a pretty smart play, I think.
Yeah, kind of my opinion of it is kind of goes back to what you said earlier. As frustrated as I did get at times with some of the play calling, I kind of gave a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt at times, as you were talking about the situation that you mentioned where, rookie quarterback, great defenses. I understand kind of the hesitation there, but again, I'm going to really kind of judge on how he adjusts as we move along in the season, as you play other defenses and other teams. And that's kind of where I'm really going to start my judgment. So, right now I'm kind of saying, well, there's stuff I like, there's stuff I kind of don't like, but, I think that by the end of the season, I will have a more solidified opinion of him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get more of the same next week. I'm going to really start my scrutiny because next week is against the Saints. Then they have their bye week. But the next game after that will be the Packers. And that is where I'm going to really have my scrutiny because you are facing a Green Bay Packer team in a way different spot than you've faced them in a long time.
Yeah.
Because Brett Hundley is awful. He is bad. That offense is bad without Rodgers or Brett Favre, whoever. And their defense is okay, but you should be able to run the ball on them. And if you don't open up the playbook a little bit on them and really try to give it to the Packers like they give it to you, then I'm going to be pretty upset with Dow Loggins and John Fox.
Well, and let's face it too. If we can't even beat the Packers with Hundley at quarterback, that's going to really, really suck.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think Hundley's a very good quarterback. And it was funny, Greg Gabriel, who's a former player personnel scouting guy for the Bears, he tweeted something along the lines of he was surprised that Mike McCarthy didn't have Hundley better prepared for this game. And I just tweeted back, and I was like, he's not an NFL caliber quarterback, and I don't know why people thought he was coming out of UCLA. Because I mean, you could go back and listen to my critique of him before that draft, and I just couldn't see what people saw in him, and it's showing in the field.
Yeah, so I mean, my one concern is that for that game specifically, I know it's really early to kind of think about that game. I just always worry about them doing something really dumb, and a lot of that happens against Green Bay. It just kind of seems like it particularly happens against Green Bay. But, to every point you made, you got to take advantage of, Hundley being a quarterback and not Rodgers, and that Packers defense, that you can really try to get the run game going. And, I'm saying this in a very loose way. Right now, the Bears are not out of it. I'm not saying they're a playoff team. I'm not saying they're going to be in the hunt by week 15, 16, or 17. But mid-season right now, they're not out of it. So if they really want to compete, they're going to need to win a few more games to legit say that they're going to stay in it. And right now, it's a game you kind of have to win because you're not facing Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and quickly looking at the stats is today, Brett Hundley had a 39 passer rating, and against that Packers defense, Mark Ingram rushed for 5 yards, almost 5 yards a carry. So and Drew Brees threw for 331 yards. So is it a bad defense that the Packers have? No. Is it a vulnerable defense that you can throw and run against? Absolutely. And the Bears are going to have to, their best option is to take away the Packers from being able to just run. And that's what they're going to want to do with Hundley at quarterback, is really pound the run game. And that's sort of what they tried to do today. They got 131 yards from one running back. If you can put some early points on the board, that's going to really put the pressure on them to have to pass to come back, and that's where you want Hundley is trying to pass.
Yeah, because if you saw towards the end of the game, I think it was the last Packers drive, and they needed to absolutely score, you saw Hundley kind of scramble and just throw, and eventually he got intercepted. So you're absolutely right. The Bears have to jump early and put more pressure on him, because it's not like you're putting pressure on Aaron Rodgers, who doesn't feel pressure whatsoever, but you're doing it on a completely other quarterback in a completely different situation. And, like I said, losing that game would really feel bad as a Bears fan. But I guess we'll worry about that game when it comes, because we still have a game against New Orleans and a bye week.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about this having the bye week then the Packers is, you shouldn't have Bears players looking forward to that game. Is they should, they have, they may look forward to the bye, but they're not gonna be looking forward to the Packers. They're gonna have to focus on the Saints here, then have the whole bye week to do nothing but focus on a game plan for the Packers. And that's
Right.
part of my saying of, Dow Logans is we want to see, my criticism is going to start, or my scrutiny is going to start during that game, because they'll be past the halfway point. Trubisky will have a few games under his belt. He'll have a bye week to get a game plan in. So that's really where it's going to severely start.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that I think is really important to keep in mind here is, Green Bay, they're not going to see themselves as, oh, Aaron Rodgers done, we're done. So they're not just going to throw in the towel. They got to expect that they're going to play as hard as they can. And, maybe that means forcing a few things here or there with Hundley to try to make something work. So, I think they got to be mentally prepared for that kind of thing. Now, I don't know who Green Bay's playing next week or the week after, so I think the next 2 weeks before that game is also going to be really telling for Green Bay, whether they win one, lose both, win two. I think that a lot of that is going to kind of depend on how the Packers play, but I think in the end, they're not going to see them as Aaron Rodgers is gone, we're giving up. That's one thing that they cannot think is going to happen, and I don't think they will, but I just kind of wanted to point that out.
I think the Packers have their bye week next week.
Next week? Okay.
And then the week after that, they play Monday night against the Lions. So they'll be facing the Bears on short rest after playing the Lions.
Boy, then the Bears really have no excuse for losing.
Oh yeah, they need to be winning that game. That's a definite, especially considering if the Lions win that game, the Packers will be in third place in the division, place they haven't been in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's really kind of interesting to see just how this NFC North race kind of was shaken up completely after Rodgers went down, because if Rodgers was still playing, we'd say, okay, the Bears may be 3-4, but they're not in the race. Now, like I said, I'm not saying they're a playoff team, but now they're more in the race than they were before. So a lot of that makes a big difference. I still think this is Minnesota's division. I still think they're going to win it, but at least it makes things for the Bears a bit more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I think you're right that the Vikings are going to win this division, but never forget that their quarterback is Case Keenum. It's not like they have Tom Brady at quarterback. He could go on just a bottom out streak, and you could start seeing Minnesota losing games. That could easily happen.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And at this point, even if the Packers were in last place and Rodgers wasn't hurt, you always think, well, Aaron Rodgers can go on a 12-game win streak or whatever. But with him hurt, it just opens up everything and gives you confidence that you could. I would be absolutely astounded and shocked and every other word along those lines if the Bears were competing for the division title come week 14, 15, 16, 17. But just the confidence that, let's string a few wins together. We don't have an elite quarterback in the division anymore with Aaron Rodgers. Let's string a few wins together and see where we go from here. And we got our first 2-game win streak since the 2015 season.
Yeah, isn't that something as well? I mean, they've won 2 in a row for the first time in over a season. That's says a lot right there, I think.
Absolutely says a lot. But yeah, I mean, the offense has a lot more room to grow. And I think
Absolutely.
it's not like under Glennon where it was just you didn't see any hope. It's you just feel like they have the training wheels on Mitch Trubisky, and eventually they're going to have to take those training wheels off. And the defense is just really playing well. I mean, the only big criticism I have about the Bears is I believe it was, I don't remember if it was Fox or Pace that was quoted earlier this week saying, well, Mitch Trubisky's a little bit behind the other rookie quarterbacks because they have 4 more weeks of playing time ahead of him. And that made me just want to smash my face into a brick wall because the only reason that he doesn't have those extra weeks is because you decided that Mike Glennon was your starting quarterback and you gave him all the reps in training camp and you gave him the best reps in preseason and he got all the reps in those first several weeks. So it was you that put him behind the 8 ball. It wasn't an injury or a contract holdout or anything along those lines. It was the Bears organization did this.
Right. Exactly. That's the perfect way to put it.
But I don't know if I have anything else Bears that I want to talk about. Do you?
No, not really. I mean, I think we summed up pretty much everything in the game. Defense played great, and it was a fun, quick game. I mean, that was a really fast game.
Yeah, it really was. It was like 2:30 and it was over.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what happens when there's not a lot of penalties and you're a lot of running the ball.
exactly. That's the big thing. Not a lot of penalties, and it's the Bears bottled up Cam Newton many times very quickly, and there was a lot of running. And boy, I mean, it seemed like night and day compared to last week, where that game felt like it just dragged on forever. This one was over lickety split.
One more thing I wanted to mention is, do you know who the leading rusher for the Carolina Panthers was in today's game?
Was it Newton?
Yeah,
Wow.
Cam Newton. They bottled up the running backs pretty well.
Yeah, they did. They didn't let them really do anything productive. That's another kind of thing that we haven't talked about much, that they did a really good job with that. We talked about how good they were at getting at Newton, how good they were in the secondary, generating turnovers. But yeah, their run defense was spectacular.
Absolutely. And that's going to be a key going forward for the rest of the season is I don't mind 5-yard runs if I don't like the yards after contact. That's my thing. Is if once you hit the guy, he goes down. That's how you start bottling up runs. Is hit the guy, he goes down, and don't let them get those extra yards, and force them to make throws to win the game. That's how you're going to win games in this league.
Yeah, exactly. It's a passer's game, and the way they battled up the run today, it was what was really nice. Not only were they on their man, but they did a great job tackling. They did a great job wrapping their guys up, and just because how many years have we seen the Bears just have guys slip through their hands and they miss tackles and they gain an extra 5, 10, 15 yards. But today, I mean, they really just did a great job tackling on that run defense.
Yeah, and that's so huge. And the games where their defense is at its best is you see them bottle up the runs quick and force pressure on the quarterbacks.
Yeah, it was just it was beautiful to watch today. Really, really was.
Yeah, this was the most fun game I've watched in several years.
Yeah, I'd agree. It was good energy in the crowd today at Soldier Field. It was a good win. There wasn't a lot of dumb mistakes, even in some of those other wins. Let's face it, there was a lot of dumb mistakes, but this one, it was just kind of nice, smooth sailing. Sure, the offense didn't do a lot. That was kind of aggravating, but the game moved along smoothly. The defense did so many exciting, fun things. It really was a fun game.
Yeah, and the defense was really aggressive. I mean, even on that fumble pickup by Jackson, is he saw that ball and he just went for it, not going, I'm just going to fall on it and give my offense the the ball, he said, I'm picking this ball up and I'm going. And the same with that interception that he had is, I mean, it was like greased lightning when I don't know how he got to that ball. It was like the flash came by because the ball was tipped, went up, and then he came from like 15 yards out of nowhere and just grabbed that ball out of the air, and the defense immediately turned into offense, and you saw them push and be aggressive to try to score, and that's what made a part of what made Lovey's defenses so good.
Yeah, and it's like many of us said, and I've said in my recap article, wow, it's like throwback. It was like watching a throwback game, watching this defense, and kind of brought you back to some better times.
Yeah, hopefully this is more of this to come, building an offense with a defense so we can actually compete for something.
Yeah, big time.
So would you like to move on to the Cubs, the Hawks, or the Bulls?
I kind of want to save the Cubs for last because I think there's a lot of feelings and other things we could talk about there. But you want to just rip the Band-Aid off with the Bulls?
Yeah, actually, I was going to suggest that. There's only two real things I want to talk about with the Bulls, and let's talk about the positive one first.
Is there one?
Larry Markkinen, or however you pronounce his name,
Mm-hmm.
is actually pretty decent.
I'd say he's the only thing worth watching this year, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it was when they drafted him, I was like, another big, slow, white guy from Europe. I'm like, ugh. But he's, I mean, there's definitely holes in his game, but when you're watching him, he's competent out there. And in preseason and stuff, in the summer league, he looked like he knew what he was doing. And when he's coming in now, he's putting some solid points up on the board. I mean, he's got a lot of room to. He's gonna have to get stronger, and he's gonna have to get like more stout. But he knows how to score. Yeah, he's been fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he's probably the only thing worth watching right now on this team. They don't have a lot of young assets that you can say, man, they're going to be a star. Where Lauri Markkinen, you watch him and says, well, maybe this is the first of the big piece of the future. Is this 20-year-old kid? He's Scandinavian, right? Isn't he like Swedish or something?
I don't remember where he's from.
I'm pretty sure he's some sort of Scandinavian, but either way, it's this team is not interesting at all, and we know it's going to be really bad, but at least he gives you a sense of, okay, here's some young talent that we can use for the future. I mean, really all I care about when I look at the box scores is how Lauri Markkinen does. Other than that,
So it's been good to see him, and he's showing he's more than just a three-point shooter as well. He's a big guy that I think he can really develop into something, and hopefully when the comparisons of him and Dirk Nowitzki end up being true, because that's something the Bulls need. And if Zach LaVine can become what they think he is, then the Bulls might have a few pieces here and there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of questions there. There's been some health issues with some of those guys, and obviously a lot of future drafts are going to tell what happens here. Because let's face it, I think the Bulls are going to have a top pick this coming year. We'll see what happens in the lottery. You pray for number one, but they should be bad enough to have a top pick. I mean, the only team I think that's worse right now than the Bulls are the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, and we come to the other topic that we could talk about with the Bulls, and that was the punch heard round the world.
Oh, boy.
And in typical Bulls fashion, as if this organization couldn't get any more frustrating, is underperforming Bobby Portis punches underperforming Nico Mirotic and breaks his face.
Yeah, and then, you heard the story of how one of the assistants tried to break it up initially. You ask yourself, where the heck was Fred Hoiberg? And then you have the vice president say, "Oh, well, we're disappointed, but it's part of sports and it happens." I'm sorry, but that should not happen. That should not happen. And the fact that they were so kind of passive about it, we're disappointed, we don't like it, what happens, he'll be suspended, that's it, blah, blah, blah. The whole thing really sums up what a joke this franchise is. And just when you think they couldn't make themselves look worse, they make themselves look worse.
Yeah, I mean, our friends at Bow had their tournament of trash with the Bulls, pitting all of their stupid decisions in a NCAA bracket style, and I'm like, they're already keyed up for next year because it'll be, the way they handled this punch. You've got, you had problems in the locker room last year, and you get rid of all problems, and you're like, okay, now we've got these young guys who are all going to be hungry and blah, blah, blah. And one of them punches another one in the face, and now you have some teammates that are, okay, well, let's just move on, and they're team Bobby. And then you've got other guys that are going to be team Nico, and Nico's not responding to text messages from Bobby Portis about it. He's clearly still pissed, as rightfully so. He got punched in the face. And you've got a weak head coach who's not responding to this, and you've got an incompetent management who isn't, nipping this right in the bud. So this is just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the update when it first happened, I think it was the past week, one of the nights. I was getting ready to go out to dinner. I'm just scrolling through Twitter, and then suddenly I see it pop up. Then I see it pop up again, and then Adrian Waj is texting it, and I just chuckled. I'm like, why am I not surprised? Why does this not shock me whatsoever? If I heard this happen in the Blackhawks or the Cubs locker room, I'd be shocked. But this kind of stupidity happening in the Bulls locker room doesn't shock me one bit. It's sad to say, but you know what? That's the reality of it. That's when you subconsciously know how bad this organization is right now.
It is a terrible organization, and the worst part about it is I heard an interview with Casey Johnson sometime this week, and he said the worst thing that I could hear, and it was not something that was shocking to me or should be shocking. It's just, well, it's something that should be shocking. It just isn't because of the reality of our situation is. He said John Paxson pretty much has a job as long as he wants a job with the Bulls. And
yeah,
and that's just, it's mind-numbing. It's you just hope that at some point he takes some higher executive role and hires a real GM to run this team, because he's terrible. And you still have Gar Forman, who's supposed to be a guru at evaluation of talent, and sure, he got Jimmy Butler right, but that's it. That's not.
They sure love to keep living on that selection.
Yeah, that is not a guru. That's a luck.
It's luck.
And
it was pure luck.
Yeah, and you bring in Doug Collins, and it's not like he's going to be a counterbalance to add another voice that's can stand up against John Paxson. He's friends with John Paxson, and you're going to get he was handpicked by John Paxson, and you're going to get another guy who's going to just go along with what John Paxson said, and you're not going to see a lot of changes with this organization.
Yeah, and like you said, we heard it. We don't like to hear it, but we knew that was the case. None of us were surprised hearing that. We all knew that, but hearing it just it makes it even more painful, even though we knew it.
It's just frustrating, and I mean I don't know what else to do. I have a friend who's a season ticket holder for the Bulls, and he looks at this with a rose-colored glasses, and he's like, well, you know what? This is just in time now that it's the lull before we build another great team, and I'm gonna be here when from the beginnings of its infancy, and I'll be there when they're good again. And I'm just like, how can you think that they're going to be good again when they've got Garv Foreman and John Paxson running this organization?
You know, people say trust the process. This is a process I cannot fully trust. And that's why I've kind of removed myself emotionally from the Bulls, because I don't want to get too wrapped up in this, because I just don't know what good it's really going to do. I mean, if it's going to work, if things turn around within the next few years. Right now, I can't say with as much confidence as I said in Theo Epstein, or the confidence I currently have right now in Ryan Pace and the Bears. I don't at any point share that confidence, whether it was when they first began with the trade of Jimmy Butler, or when they began last year by doing that Doug McDermott Taj trade that didn't really make much sense. There was really no point where I had a level of trust of saying, all right, let's trust this process. If you wanted me to trust the process, it would have been a process of tearing down the entire organization, top to bottom. Every player, every coach, every executive, all the management. If you tore that team down and built it all from scratch, then I trust the process. Right now, doesn't have my full trust.
I trust the process if the process is put together by competent people, but if the process is put by incompetent people who caused the situation having to be in the need of following a process, then it might turn out better. But it's incompetent boobs who are developing the process. So what reasoning should I have to trust it? When Theo Epstein says trust the process, you go, all right, that guy broke the curse in Boston, so he has a track record. Trust that guy. And he comes here and he follows, and he told you what was going to happen, and you had a roadmap and a time frame, and he actually came in ahead of time, so you trust that process. But you have these people saying, we'll trust the process, and then their players are breaking each other's faces.
Yeah, I mean, what is this supposed to make us, fired up? Oh, look at them, they're punching, they're energized now. No, it does the exact opposite, and I don't think there's really anyone who sees it that way. I'm just saying that if that's what they hope happens, guess what? That's not the case here. So, I don't even know how many Bulls games I'm even going to bother watching this year. I saw a few minutes of the first game in Toronto just because I was waiting for the NLCS to start, and I caught like 2 seconds of the Spurs yesterday playing the Bulls when the Hawks were in intermission and the Chicago Wolves were in intermission. I have no interest in it. It's sad because I used to love the Bulls so much, but now it's just I've stopped caring pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, the sad part is I have too. This team is frustrating to watch, and when I started to get to some sort of point where I'm like, well, you know what, I'll watch the kids, and even though this is going to be a bad team, they might be fun to watch. Players start punching each other in the face, and you're like, well, you come to the reality that this team is led by an inexperienced coach that doesn't have the respect of his team and isn't an NBA coach, and run by nincompoops. And it's just like, well, that stops being fun then.
Yeah, there's just, like I said, there's really no point for me watching, and I pray one day that it will be worth watching again, and I think right now the way I see it is that day is not going to be any time soon.
No, not at all. But at least we have another team that has still a window of opportunity. So we have the Blackhawks, who, since we last talked, they had 3 games. They played against the St. Louis Blues, the Oilers, and last night against the Coyotes. And although they had a blowout loss to St. Louis, they took Oilers to overtime with their backup goalie, and had a nice grinded out win against the Coyotes. So all in all, we saw some positive things from this team this week.
Yeah, I mean, they looked like complete doo-doo against the Blues, but it was kind of one of those things where you say, well, that happens, and the Blues have been playing really good. It's early on. Nick Schmaltz is coming back from injury, so it wasn't something overly worrisome. And that game against the Oilers, the Hawks played a good game. Cam Talbot just made some really, really good saves. So you got to tip your cap there, and at least you got a point. And then in last night's game, it wasn't a great game played, but they took advantage where they needed to. They scored a power play goal, which has still been struggling. The power play has still been really struggling, but they did that. They got a win, and like I said the other week, you just got to take every win you could get at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And that St. Louis game, you had 5 tripping penalties. I mean, I don't even know how you get 5 tripping penalties, but it sets it up on a tee for St. Louis. And you have the Blackhawks playing catch up for much of the game, and that's not a good spot to be in. Patrick Sharp, got dinged up a little bit, but he's okay. But Schmaltz came back, and it's one of those ones you play a bad game and you chalk it up to this is a long season, and you're going to have some stinkers out there. Pittsburgh lost the opening game to the Blackhawks 10-1. Do you think they're going to fold this season and not make the playoffs? No, you expect them to turn it around and be a much better team. And the Blackhawks are the same way. As you have a tough loss to a division opponent that you know well, and you just throw it out the window and say, rough night, let's go back and play another one. And that game to the Oilers, a few things there is Connor McDavid made Duncan Keith look stupid, and with that one, I think he got the assist on that. With the
what
spin-a-rama.
could he even do about that, man?
I mean, you're so good. You made a 2-time Norris Trophy winner just look terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was my worry, is when they said that it was going to be Anton Forsberg in goal and not Corey Crawford. I thought we were going to get a huge dose of Connor McDavid, and it was going to be high scoring affair. But in reality, is the Blackhawks bottled them up fairly well, other than that one play, and Forsberg looked really sharp, made 40 saves. They still struggled on the power play, even though they had a shakeup on the unit. But I thought they played a very good game, and it was just they played a tough opponent, and with a backup, your backup goalie in, and you got a point out of it. So you take it where you can, and you look at the positives too. Is Ryan Hartman went face first in the boards early in that game, and came out okay. So small miracles that there wasn't a disaster there.
Definitely. And you talked about Anton Forsberg, and I'd say for him, so far so good. Just in general, not just that one game, but in the games he's played in, I'm pretty impressed with the way he's done it.
And you know what is the Blackhawks have done really well establishing goalies, because look what Antti Niemi is doing now. He looks terrible.
Yeah, not good. Not good.
Antti Ranta hasn't been great. It's the Blackhawks are able to take goalies and make them look better. And then, they've hit a home run with Crawford. So it's, the blessing is, you couldn't afford Darling in this offseason. You bring in Forsberg, and he's played well.
He's still really young. That's the nice thing, too. He's really young. He's not an old veteran.
Yeah, he's not from the neighborhood like Darling, but he's doing the job. And And then the game last night against the Coyotes is, although it's 4-2 and it seemed closer than it was, a lot of that game I felt like it was dominated by the Blackhawks. And you think about it, was it Wingles that took that penalty shot that I don't know why they didn't call it a goal.
That was irritating.
Yeah, because they called it a goal on the ice, and they should have had to have irrefutable evidence, and I didn't see it get tipped, any definitive evidence that it got tipped by the goalie.
I thought the goalie's stick hit his stick, not the puck.
Yeah, that's what I saw from, the best of angles looked like he hit his stick, which is not the puck. So I don't know why that wasn't a goal. So that should have been 5 goals there. And the 2 goals that the Coyotes got were kind of cheapies. There was the one that was just kind of sitting there dead, and they beat him to it. And there was another one that I think was I forgot how the other one was scored, but they were cheapy goals. So it was I felt like the Blackhawks played a lot better than the score indicated, and you saw them get energized again by that fourth line of Boma, Wingles, and Hayden, which is nice to see.
Yeah, in the years that we've seen the Blackhawks go deep into the playoffs, it's a lot of the qualities of those seasons are watching the way those fourth lines play, and if you see that your lower lines have that talented depth, that's a good sign. That's something that you want to see, and so far, so good.
Yeah, I mean, if they can. Last year they didn't have 4 lines at all. They basically had like 1.5 lines. If you can continue on with 4 lines this year, that's a good. It's a good problem to have, and it's what you need to be able to go deep into these playoffs and compete for a Stanley Cup. Hopefully you see this level of play all season long. Obviously you're going to see some dips because it's a long season, but on the whole, you hope that you see all 4 lines continue to play well.
Yeah, and the other nice thing is knowing that down in Rockford, there are other guys that have proven they could play in the NHL if needed be on a lower line, like a Vinny Hinostroza or somebody like that. So you kind of have the luxury of knowing you have depth on the team, and you still have some depth in the farm system in terms of forwards.
And Yurko has looked very good in Rockford as well so far.
That's another guy who I would really love to eventually see come back up and make a name for himself, because the kid has had so much promise, just it hasn't fully clicked yet, but I don't want to give up on that promise because I think it is still there.
Yeah, absolutely. Other than that, the Hawks are still playing well. They get a little bit of a mini break this week. They've got a Tuesday game against the Golden Showers in Las Vegas.
Yeah, first time.
First time, and they're going to take a mini vacation because I think they don't play again until Friday after that. So I think they were going to do like a little bit of a team bonding because, a little bit of a note is this is the first year, and I can't remember how long, that they don't have a circus trip.
Yeah, they were talking about that last night, no circus trip, and I don't get to look forward to my Black Wednesday pre-Thanksgiving Sharks game late at night, but, oh well.
You've got, as fans, we've sort of gotten used to that, is you cluster those West Coast games in and then, have to play them all random. So, you lose out on that a little bit with the team bonding, because the Blackhawks have actually taken that long road trip as rather than a let's hold on and hopefully we don't lose ground in the division kind of attitude. They've gone to let's play awesome. Let's use this time away to really bond as a team, play better, and come out with a good record and pad our lead. And that's the kind of the attitude they've had on those circus trips, and it's been successful for the most part since Joel Quenneville has come to coach the team.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of memories from some of those circus trips. I think there's definitely a lot more good than bad memories with those. And, I can remember the Thanksgiving week schedule. It was always Wednesday night was the Sharks, Thursday or Friday afternoon after Thanksgiving was the Ducks, and then the next day it was the Kings. It was always that same formula, and overall, the Hawks have had a lot of success in those games. I remember Marian Hossa's Hawks debut was in 2009 in that game against the Sharks before Thanksgiving, and he scored 2 goals, one of them being shorthanded. And those have been kind of key games that the Hawks have used to kind of get the ground running still early on in the season. But, now we don't have that. I think they said the longest road trip is 4 games now, which is a big difference from the circus trip. So it'll be interesting to see how things kind of flow differently now.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's not too much this week with the Blackhawks. The only other one I wanted to mention is during intermission, I really like Adam Burish.
I do too.
I didn't know if I would, but I really like him. I think he's not afraid to take a little a friendly shot at some of the players. He's lively. He's certain somebody that used to play on the Cubs that's on the same network. Has still not found the rhythm of being in the booth. But Adam Burish has really just jumped into it, and he seems witty, he seems engaging, he seems personable, and like he's not shy of the camera. He definitely knows what he's talking about. It's enjoyable.
Definitely, I agree. He's done a really good job coming in here and taking that television role, and he was that kind of scrappy guy that didn't do much, but all the Blackhawks fans really liked. So seeing him back with this organization, I think, is just cool on its own.
Yeah, so that's been a big plus for me. Is that was one thing I always hated when they had games on WGN. Is the intermission was it like Rich King, who's awful. I can't stand him. I don't think he's ever watched a sport in his life. But, listen to him talk. It's much better when it's on CSN or whatever they're calling it now, NBC
Sportsnet. I still can't get used to that.
Yeah, so I really like the intermission reports. And, I used to be a time when I would get up and do other things and then, wait to come back. I actually sit down and I'll pause it if I have to go to the bathroom or go get something to drink or whatever. I'll pause it so I don't miss some of what they're saying, because it's actually it's nice to hear good voices.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It's a really good group they have on that network, and hopefully they stick around for a while because it's fun to listen to.
Absolutely. All right, so I guess that gets us to the part of the show where we talk about, the sad ending of the Chicago Cubs season.
Yeah, it wasn't easy to watch, but at least it wasn't in old-fashioned heartbreaking type of style where they had a lead late and they lost it and it was a series taken away from them. It was just a flat beatdown.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I had to pick between the way the Cubs lost that deciding game versus the way the Yankees lost that deciding game, I'd probably just say, the Cubs, just because it was over pretty early, and I had some friends in town from Oklahoma that I haven't seen in a couple years, so we're and my friend is a diehard Cubs fan too, so we're both just you know what, this game's out of hand. We can focus on hanging out and just check in on the game every few minutes and whatnot, rather than being just sitting in the same room and biting our nails together.
Yeah, that was actually the point I was gonna make exactly. It sounds bad. It's not like you want to see your team get killed, but I would have rather they just stuck the knife, the dagger, right through the heart, right off the bat, instead of slowly seeping in and then all of a sudden, bam, you're done. No, it was right off the bat, and Quintana was getting pulverized, and I don't even think he was pitching that bad. I think the Dodgers were just so good this year, and they were so fired up to win a pennant, and they just came out swinging away. And honestly, it was over as soon as they scored the first or second run. It was over right away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a lot of people are crapping all over Joe Madden, and there was some questionable things he did, some awkward double switches, but for the most part is, he can't go out there and bat for these guys. Your best players aren't getting it done at the plate, and your bullpen your starting pitching was great, but your bullpen, other than Wade Davis, just played like doo-doo.
Yeah, I mean, Wade Davis was the reason that they forced a Game 5, that they didn't get swept. And Joe Madden, it didn't matter who he put in, whether it was Edwards, whether it was Rondon, whether it was Montgomery, they just didn't get the job done. Nobody got the job done. And it was kind of showing in the final game where after all this time of the starting pitching keeping the Cubs in games, after all that time of doing it and not getting any support, it eventually was going to fall, and then therefore you lost really, really ugly because the one thing that did work for you didn't work for you at the end.
Yeah, I mean, the Cubs have, in the postseason, have just absolutely relied on dominant starting pitching, and the bats have just been ice cold. And the one game where they didn't pitch well with starting pitching, everything came to a head. So it was fitting that it was the deciding game where the starting pitching didn't save the hitters.
This is what I'm going to say about this NLCS and postseason in general. The aspect I was most disappointed in was the offense. I was very frustrated with the bullpen and their walks, and there's no excuse for that. There's absolutely none. You need a good bullpen. But you know what? They really worked and you could tell they were completely burned out in that NLCS. And honestly, I had a feeling that would happen. They were burned out. But I thought the offense was at least going to be better than this.
Yeah, the offense was...
It was atrocious. Let's say it. It was atrocious.
And the sad part is 100% of the runs they scored against the Dodgers were off home runs.
Yeah.
100%.
And most of them were solo home runs, except for the 2-run home run by Almora in Game 1.
Yeah, and that's just, you're not getting guys on base. I get that the Dodgers' philosophy is to throw mostly strikes, and when you're facing Kershaw is number 1 in Major League Baseball in strike percentage, so he's going to be aggressive with you, but you have to be able to lay off pitches. Baez cough. You have to be able to lay off some of these pitches. You have to have a better eye, and you can't swing everything for the fences.
Yeah, and I mean, it showed that that's not always the most effective way because they struck out a lot. They didn't get on base a lot. They didn't get a lot of walks. Not a lot of great at-bats either. At least, even when the Cubs weren't hitting, they could at least give you a good at-bat. You didn't really see much of that. And I'm just going to point out that when you think about it, it wasn't just the NLCS. The offense never really got it going in the postseason. Even when they beat the Washington Nationals in the NLDS, the offense never really got it going. It was some really good starting pitching. Game 1 was probably the best game the Cubs played this entire postseason because though they were getting no hit into the 6th, they finally got on base and drove guys in with some good at-bats. But in all the other games, you won because you had a bloop single that should have been caught. I mean, it's my opinion. And the Nationals really choked that Game 5 away. So it just seemed like the offense never clicked. Bryant struggled throughout. Rizzo kind of struggled throughout. And most of those guys struggled throughout. It never really clicked.
And not to be a negative Nancy, but I felt in my heart of hearts that the way the Cubs won that Game 5 against the Nationals, that they were doomed against the Dodgers because they didn't win that game. It was a war of attrition of who was going to be more futile in their attempt to win. And I think that the Nationals just choked more than the Cubs, and the Cubs ended up getting the victory. It was kind of like that episode of South Park where the kids don't want to play Little League, so they try to lose, but it's who tries to lose harder.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's what that game felt like. And I was like, if they can't step up in this Game 5 and take this game from the Nationals and just establish dominance, they really are in a tough pickle with the Dodgers.
Well, and I mean, look, let's face it. You knew this bullpen was going to be completely burned out going into the NLCS. You knew it.
Oh, absolutely. You know, this was not a surprise. You just hoped that the offense would show up and be able to put a
right,
band-aid on
and
it.
I know they were facing really good pitching. It's easier said than done to hit good pitching, but a lot of the offense, it was so un-Cub-like, just in many different ways, and it was really disappointing to see Bryant play so poorly because that might have been the worst stretch I've ever seen Chris Bryant play in his career.
Absolutely. He just didn't look like Chris Bryant, and I wish baseball was a little bit more like hockey, because at the end of a hockey season, you find out all the injuries these people have been dealing with, and it starts making sense. You're like, oh, okay, I know that, this guy was playing on, an injured leg the whole season, and you could see it in the way he skated. With baseball, you don't always find out about those injuries, and you never piece together, was there a nagging injury that it was okay enough to play, but not give you the quality at bats. You just never know, or if it was just a slump.
That's very possible too. Baseball's full of ups and downs, and sometimes you just hit the downs at the wrong spot. And it's not like it was just Chris Bryant that didn't hit. It was pretty much everybody that didn't hit, and it was a very strange 2017 because in 2016, everything was so spread out. The offense spread everything out so nicely, whereas in 2017, it was the highest of highs one week and the lowest of lows another week. It was just mountaintop, valley, mountaintop, valley. They'd go through a week where they score 10-plus runs in 3 out of 5 games, and 2 of those games they score 15-plus. And then they hit a week where they get shut out a few times and they don't score very much, and that's kind of the theme in 2017. And maybe they just hit that valley in the postseason, and it makes it even harder when you are facing some of the best.
Yeah, and I think having those inconsistencies, led to the lull in the playoffs. If you can even some of those out, even if you don't hit the high of highs, I think just playing more even-keeled baseball, you're going to be set up for a better postseason than what they.
And with all that being said, the way I watched this team play, it looked like they ran out of gas. It looked like the tank was just empty on all aspects. It seemed like it was there was nothing left, and that here comes a nice off season where they actually get an off season, and hopefully that will really kind of refresh this team, because just overall the team, they just looked gassed. They just didn't look like they had anything left.
Not even physically gassed. They just looked emotionally gassed.
Yeah.
It was like you were watching a silhouette of Chris Bryant and a silhouette of Anthony Rizzo up there batting, but there was soul, there was no soul behind those eyes. like if it was a Scooby-Doo episode, you could pull off their face and there was somebody else under there. It just didn't look like the right guys. And I think there's a lot of, a lot of just emotionally and mentally drained. And just think about though, how many World Series champions even the next year don't make the playoffs. And this team not only made the playoffs, they won the first round, and they came up against a juggernaut team in the Dodgers. So there's something to be said.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, you make 3 straight NLCSs, you go all the way in 2016. And, that's why I'm going to share my feelings that night. I was sad that the season was over more than anything else. I wasn't mad at the Cubs for losing because I saw that they were gassed in the many aspects you just mentioned, and they gave us 3 straight NLCS appearances and a world title, something that not a lot of teams can say. And, you just think and say, well, they can now have an off season where they can rest. They could kind of recharge their batteries, and after this really awesome ride, it was not meant to be for the Cubs. It was meant to be for the Dodgers. And, I thought it was pretty obvious, honestly, after Game 2 that it really wasn't meant to be. I'm gonna be honest. I think that series ended on that Turner walk-off home run. I know it sounds silly, but that's kind of how I feel.
I fully agree. I think that home run just off of Lackey just, had people throwing their hands up on this Cubs team. Not literally, but figuratively. It just took a lot of wind out of their sails.
Now, I'm going to ask you an interesting question. What was a singular moment, and it could be the Lackey home run, but a singular moment where you said you completely gave up hope? Because for me, though I think that home run ended it in the long run, I didn't completely give up hope after it. There was another point in the series where I just completely threw in the towel. I would like to know what that point was for you first.
I would probably say that that first home run in Game 5.
Oh, so you lasted hope till Game 5. That's good for you.
That home run by Turner took a lot of the wind out of my sails. But I was like, you know what? The miracles do happen. They came back and they won that next game. And by the skin of my teeth, I was like, all right, maybe they finally wake up. And I know I preach that, teams just don't have a switch. But I was like, maybe something clicks, bats start to come alive, and this win recharges them. And that first home run in that next game, I was like, nope, it's done. This is over. And it was it. How about you?
Game 3, when Carl Edwards Jr. walked Yu Darvish to force in a run. I didn't want to say it on Twitter because I didn't want to get the backlash. I didn't want to say it to that many people, but I did say it to some of my friends. When that happened, I just said, you know what? Nothing's going right. It's not meant to be. Because at that point, they were down 4-1. They weren't scoring any runs. They walked in the pitcher with the bases still loaded. And they were on the verge of being down 3-0. And that's just when I said, it's not going to happen. That was the moment. Now, I was glad when they won Game 4 to at least not get swept, and I was hoping maybe they could force it to go back to LA. But beyond that point, I never thought that the Cubs were going to win this series. The Dodgers were just too good, and the Cubs were just completely out of gas.
I was really rooting for the Cubs to win Game 5. Not that I really expected the Cubs to win 4 in a row to win this series and go to the World Series. But I honestly wanted to see the Dodgers clinch it in LA. So they were, with their fans. I think that's when it's an opponent you respect, you're just like, you know what? I wish that for their fans. Let them win it in LA. Let them celebrate there. Let them, get that memory in that moment and go from there. It's a lot harder when they do it on the road because you're going to have a lot less fans there. And it's a lot tougher to swallow for the Chicago fans that were at that game.
Yeah, and you never like seeing an opponent celebrate on your home turf or your home arena. Obviously, it's not like watching the Cardinals win on your home turf or anything, but still, you just don't like seeing it happen on your own field, especially knowing that a year ago you were doing that on the home field and everything was going nuts and completely different situation the next year. And it's funny, 3 years in a row, the pennant's been clinched at Wrigley Field.
It's true. But then there's the big story that I was not expecting. And you actually confirmed it for me. Chris Bosio let go.
Yeah. I'm going to sum up my thoughts very briefly. When I first heard it, I was shocked. When I thought about it more, I wasn't as shocked. I kind of want to know what you thought about that.
That's the same position I was. He's a very good pitching coach, and he was the only holdover that that Joe Madden kept of the previous coaching staff. And when you confirmed it, I was just very shocked because that was a quick and abrupt change, and especially the wording that Theo Epstein had in his comments about it. But the more I thought about it is, I think it's a Tuesday morning, no, I don't know, Monday morning, whatever morning he's on Mully and Hanley in the morning, briefly. I sit in my car, don't go into work, and I just listen to it in the parking lot. And I'm always curious of the way he words things because Chris Bosio is a very gruff and interesting guy. He has some very strong opinions about things, and he's not a joker. And I could totally see where him and Joe don't see eye to eye, and Chris not letting things go.
Definitely, and I think that there were more personal spats between the two, or maybe him and some other players, than we knew or thought about. I mean, we saw that one thing with John Lester, but there could have been a lot more going on with that behind the scenes that we didn't know about. And to your point, that's probably very true. Also, I'm not blaming him for this, but let's face it, the way the bullpen's kind of fallen off recently with all the walks, maybe that also kind of justifies kind of wanting a change. And considering that the one guy from Tampa Bay, who they're going to interview tomorrow, the old guy that Joe used to have under his wing, Jim Hickey, is going to be available. I think there's a lot of factors that go into this. Also, another point that is interesting, and this is what my buddy Crawley on Twitter brought up. He's had a very weird season where not only you saw that spat, but you had the whole thing where the Cubs were pissed about his PED accusations of Eric Thames. And remember, he missed a lot of time just randomly. He just wasn't there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of weird things going on, and it makes more sense now that I think about it. And one question I want to ask you is, Chris Bosio did a lot of great things. It wasn't just one thing, but do you think that his reputation greatly rested on just Jake Arrieta?
No, I think he's a very good pitching coach all around. But I think that's like a
crowning achievement is how I'd put it.
Yes. But I think there's a lot of achievement to be had, but that was just like the front center, just crowning achievement.
Right. I'd agree.
I think the guy has no problems finding a job in this league.
Oh, not at all. He'll land on his feet.
Yeah, and I was at first, I wasn't concerned because I think, to be honest, even though he's very good at his job, I don't know if you listen to him in the mornings on Mullen Hanley.
Every now
once a
and then
week,
I'd catch it, yeah.
he sounds like an asshole.
He kind of does.
To be
He kind of does.
Like, I mean, there was one time, like right before the playoffs started, and they hadn't announced who the starting pitcher for Game 1 was going to be, and they were joking around, and they had made like bumpers for each of the five options, and they were like, "All right, you can't tell us who the starting pitcher is, but what would you say about this?" And it had the announcer voice was like, "Starting Game 1 for the Chicago Cubs is Kyle Hendricks," and they were just laughing, and he's just like, "We haven't even met as a team, and you guys are going to throw speculation out there," and they were like, "No, we made one for everybody."
yeah.
And he just didn't even chuckle. Like, nothing was humorous to him. And I just don't think you can play a 100 or be on a team for 162 games and this grinding season and not be able to laugh.
Well, especially in
tough.
this culture that Joe Madden has established, it's not like his culture.
But my big concern was he's very good at his job. And I was like, who are they going to get? And when I saw that Jim Hickey was let go, and I saw that Dusty Baker, which we'll talk about in a minute, Dusty Baker was fired, which you assume that his whole staff was let go.
Mike Maddox
is and I really, when Mike Maddox was interviewed for the Cubs job, he was somebody I was, I think it was when Renteria got hired. I was actually rooting for him because I think he's just a really smart guy. And honestly, if he becomes the next manager of the Nationals, I wouldn't be shocked at all.
You know who I could see the Nationals bringing in just because they're the Nationals? I could totally see them bringing in Terry Collins. I could totally see it.
Yeah, possibly.
I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying it would be a Nationals move. Him or John Farrell.
I'm just trying to think of who they they could bring in Lou Piniella.
Yeah, right. Could you imagine? He'd have a bottle of scotch in the dugout the whole time. Oh, yeah, you get out there, son. Yeah, don't bother me. Just don't bother me, son. You get out there.
Yeah, honestly, I think Mike Maddox would be a smart choice for them. He's got a good rapport with that pitching staff, and he's a very, very smart baseball man, and he doesn't bring any Dusty Bakerisms with him.
No, not at all.
So that's, but you at least got to bring him in to interview him until he gets that job offer. But Jim Hickey is a very good choice as well, and either of those two guys, you're not going to go wrong, and they could breathe some new life into this pitching staff.
I think that if you go either Maddox or Hickey, I think that brings in a good number of benefits. Joe knows Hickey, and Hickey might be able to attract some of those free agents from the Rays like Alex Cobb. I could see either one working out fine, but I'm going to trust them to make the right decision. And I'm really thankful for Chris Bosio, what he did for these past few years. But like I said earlier, sometimes a change is a good thing.
Yeah, I just have two things about it. One is the statement that Theo released is, we brought back all the coaches that Joe said he wanted back. Something along those lines. And which clearly put it on that Joe didn't want Chris back. And then the what was the other point I was going to make?
I may have an idea what it is, if I could guess. Maybe it'll remind you.
Sure.
Was it the fact that the Cubs were really quiet about the whole thing?
Oh, no, I know what it was. Is it clearly wasn't performance-based because they didn't fire the hitting coach.
Oh yeah, because people thought John Maley was going to be gone.
Yeah, and they kept him, well, at least for the time being. They've kept him, and they let Chris Bosio go, and as a whole, the Cubs starting pitching was great. So I think this was all personality type thing and not so much performance.
Yeah, I think there was some of both, but I think it was heavily personal. Little bit of performance mixed in there, but I'd agree. It was very, very on a personal rate.
And we briefly touched on this a second ago, and it not so much has to do with the Cubs, but I find it hilarious that the Nationals hired Dusty Baker because he was Dusty Baker, but then fired Dusty Baker because he's Dusty Baker.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much sums it up what they did. And, you could say all you want about what Dusty did and his accomplishments in the regular season, but you kind of had to know this was going to come. It sucks for him, but
Yeah.
you had to know it was coming.
I mean, he's a fantastic guy at turning a team around and bringing
Absolutely.
winning attitude in there, but he's a choke artist in the playoffs.
Yeah, and they haven't made it past the NLDS, and from 2012 to this year, they've had multiple managers not make it past the NLDS. So, not only is Dusty snake bitten, but this franchise is snake bitten, and it seems like every Game 5 loss is really, really painful. So, the Nationals are just, right now, it's like nothing can go right for them in that situation. And because of that, I figured they'd make the move to fire him. I wasn't surprised when that was announced. I'm not saying it was completely right, but I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either. Is they realize that he's snake bitten, and they're not going to give him another season to prove that. I just hope that they make the right decision. I mean, as a fan of baseball, I hope they make a right decision of somebody to bring in, because I don't think a big name is the right way to go. I think bringing in the right fit. So I think a Mike Maddox might be a good option, but we'll see who they must have an idea of somebody, because they made that move quick and decisively, and so, which makes me think that they have somebody in mind.
Yeah, I would agree. And they're going to interview Hickey tomorrow, so we'll see kind of how quickly this transponds here. And it's going to be an interesting offseason for the Cubs, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but you've got to believe that either Schwarber or Happ is gone.
Personally, this is my prediction. I think Happ is going to get traded over Schwarber, because right now I think Happ's got a bit more value, and I think that Theo and Co. just really, really like Kyle Schwarber, and we saw how little Ian Happ was used by Joe Maddon in the postseason, even though he has this value. I think he's going to get dealt. That's kind of one of my bold predictions in this offseason. Here's the yeah,
I think so too. I agree with you, and it's funny because on paper you would think that Happ would be much more valuable to the Cubs because he's versatile. He can play. He's fast. He might be the fastest guy on the team. He can play all three outfield spots. He can play second base, but his bat went real quiet, real fast in the second part of the season, and you're right. Jed and Theo and Joe, they love Schwarber. And, the last time they had a man crush like that was Anthony Rizzo. And they rode him when he was not playing very well and struck out a lot and came through some struggles. And look what they've got now.
Exactly. So, I was going to ask you, I have a list right here of some of the Cubs free agents. And I was going to ask you what if you think they're going to be back or not. Does that sound like a good question to ask you?
Absolutely, I would actually. That's a good
Yeah,
think
I
that'd be
love these kind of radio games. Okay, here we go. Brian Dunsing, yay or nay? Going to be back.
So is this? Do I think the Cubs should bring him back, or do I think he will be back?
Do both. Think should he and will he?
Dunsing should be back, and I think he will be back.
Next is Alex Avila.
I would love to see him back. He will not be back.
I would agree with that, considering that Alex Avila is mainly a starter, and he wouldn't get much playing time, I don't think, because of the Victor Caratini. You know, they have a lot of faith in him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rene Rivera.
I think he should be back. I'm going to say they will bring him
Okay,
back.
that's interesting. And the way I see that is he's a veteran catcher who's used to playing a very limited role, and in the limited role he did play as a Cub, he was great. So,
yeah, I loved him. I just my only thing is if they see Caratini as are they going to carry three guys, or are they going to see Caratini as the guy that spells Rizzo and spells Contreras, or if they still think he needs some seasoning. But I wouldn't mind them bringing
and
Rivera
here's what
back.
I'd like about Rivera. Let's face it, Contreras is still pretty young. Caratini is still really young. It would be nice to have that third veteran backup. I mean, it was that way with David Ross, and it was, before Montero left. So I think having that third veteran backup catcher is kind of a good thing to have.
Yeah, and I think he was a good clubhouse guy.
Absolutely. Agreed. All right. Next up, we have John Lackey.
No, he shouldn't come back, and he won't come back. I think he's going to just
I think so, too. I think he's going to take another shot of whiskey and just ride his horse on away to the horizon, because that is the kind of guy John Lackey is. Koji Uehara.
He shouldn't be back, and I think his career
I'd
is
agree.
done.
He's like, what, 44 now?
Yeah, he's old.
He is pretty old. Here's one of the biggest ones. John Jay.
I don't think he should be back, and I don't think he will be back.
Interesting. What's your thoughts behind that?
I think he becomes a crutch for Joe, and his role was supposed to be as a backup guy, that spark off the bench, and he ended up starting a lot, and I think it was it was not beneficial to Albert Almora, who is your future center fielder, and I fear that if you bring him back, you're going to get the same thing. Is anytime there's a slump by Almora, is you're gonna, or you see a hot streak by John Jay, is he's going to get a lot of playing time. So I just feel like that's a Joe crutch that I don't necessarily like as a starter. So, and plus I think he's going to get some offers from people to be a starter.
I think you made some very good points, because I thought John Jay was very, very important to their success this year, and he did a lot of great things, but you're absolutely right. I think if the outfield wasn't as clogged as it was, you'd bring him back to be more of a left fielder, but you have Zobrist and Schwarber and Almora in center and Jason Hayward. So, I mean, I think that you made some really good points there. In my opinion is this: I think Almora needs to be starting on a regular basis next year, but if they somehow worked out a way to bring John Jay back and have more of the role he was meant to be, I'd be completely okay with that, because I really liked what John Jay did. But you made a lot of great points right there, so good stuff.
If they bring him back and he's truly used the way that they expected him to use him, I'm fine. It's just he wound up starting way too many games and playing way too many or getting way too many at bats that should have gone to Almora.
Yeah, definitely. That's very true. All right, Wade Davis.
Should be back, won't be back.
Okay, I definitely agree. He should be back. I would be, if I were Theo, I'd pay him because that guy he's just awesome. He is really, really good. Now, I know there's kind of a risk seeing as he is getting older, but I still think he's got some good years left in him. So I definitely agree should, as in would. I'm kind of 50-50 on it because here's the thing. Who's going to be your closer? I know Carl Edwards Jr. is, quote, the closer of the future, but with all these walk problems he's had in the second half, I don't know if you want to jump right into that right away.
Oh, I fully agree. And I'm going to say the same thing about Wade Davis as I say about Jake Arrieta. So, spoiler alert here. It's not the money Wade Davis, it's going to be the years. And I think Wade Davis is going to, for his own security, and I don't blame him, he's going to want probably a 5-year deal. And do you want to pay him for 5 years?
Right. Now, it's like you said, the years are very important, and I guess, like I said, I'm still kind of 50-50 on it because I could see them taking a gamble and doing it, and I could see him not doing it. So, but I would love to have Wade Davis back. He's one of the best relievers the Cubs have ever had. So we're going to just get right into the last one, Jake Arrieta. What are your just overall thoughts?
He put a for sale sign in front of his house.
I did see that. I also saw Brittany Arrieta tweet that they were going to move regardless, so take that with a grain of salt. But I definitely agree he's going to...
I just feel like, yeah, I mean, if you've rented this house for this long and you're fine not buying a place, why would you just put it on the market when you're a free agent? I think that was a little bit of a spin, but I think he knows he's gone, and he's another guy. If they could sign him for 3 years, and I don't really care, even if they paid him like $30 million a year, which is stupid amounts of money. It's not the money,
the years,
it's the
right?
Years, and if they could get him for 3 years, I would love to have Jake Arrieta back. Any more than 3 years, don't want.
And when Scott Boras is your agent, don't count on it.
Yeah, because he'll find somebody to give the years and the money.
Who do you think realistically is ready to pony up the dough for him? If there were a few teams or a team you could name, who do you think it would be?
Wow. Let's see. I wouldn't. Houston might be an option.
Interesting. Okay.
He's a Texan, and they could really use another arm. I would say the Yankees would be an option, but they've really changed their MO how they operate. No to the Rays, no to the Blue Jays. I don't think the Orioles have that kind of money.
I could see them trying,
Red
but
Sox
not getting him. Yeah.
Which one?
The
Orioles
Orioles
or the Red Sox? Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Orioles will be involved. Absolutely. But I just don't think they have the money. Twins, maybe? I just don't know if they have that kind of money. They're a upcoming franchise. Royals, no. White Sox, no. Tigers, no.
You know who I can see? Keep guessing, and you might get it.
Indians would be an interesting
that's not
one.
who I'm thinking of, but definitely that would be an interesting one.
Astros, potentially. Angels
That's
are a
the
team
one.
that I could see.
That's
They're
the
a
one I
wild
think.
card. Yeah, that wouldn't shock me. Mariners, no. Rangers, I don't think so. The A's definitely no. The Nationals don't have the money. The Marlins are trying to pare down money. The Braves aren't.
The Braves, don't count them out. They might.
I'm not counting out the Braves. Mets have counted out. Phillies have counted out.
Wouldn't it be something if Pittsburgh got him?
I was gonna say, I don't know if the Brewers got him. What if the Cardinals got him? That they don't.
And you know what?
sign
They
free
have
agents
a
like that.
whole collection of young starters. I just don't think there'd be a need.
Yeah. So, I don't see anybody in the Cubs division making this. I don't think the Pirates have that kind of money. I don't think the
I don't think
Brewers
the Brewers
will. Dodgers won't.
No,
Diamondbacks won't.
the Dodgers. I'm not fully counting them out because Yu Darvish seems kind of like a rental. So I don't know. I'm not fully counting them out yet.
I've heard some rumors that they're constricting their payroll. So I don't know how
Right.
realistic that is. So we'll see. I'm not counting them out, but I would say that they would be a dark horse. Colorado, that's a possibility.
Here's a really
Padres
Here's a
and
really
Giants
weird
out.
thought. A really, really weird thought. But you know what? Sometimes when you play this scenario, you got to get weird. What if the Marlins get rid of Giancarlo Stanton and they free up a shit ton of money? And then they go after him. I'm not saying it makes sense, but sometimes you have to think of weird things in this situation. It's really far-fetched, I know.
Before, under the old ownership of the Marlins, possibility. With that Derek Jeter-led group, I don't think so. I think they're trying to pare it down. I think they're trying to do just a complete rebuild and bring in homegrown talent to be the face of
That's
the
probably
organization.
right,
And,
yes.
so I would be shocked. I'm going to say if he doesn't take a short deal with the Cubs, I'm going to say Astros, Braves, and Angels are my top three.
Yeah, I think
probabilities.
Angels is definitely up there and Braves is up there. Because, you know, the Angels, they like to spend money. And, you know, I'm not saying that they go from pretender to contender, but, you know, you add a veteran like Arrieta and a pitching staff that hasn't been good in years, that might be something that really attracts them to it. Because, yeah, I mean, we list a lot of teams. It's like, well, that doesn't make sense, that doesn't make sense. And there are a few that do make sense. And, yeah, I think someone will overpay him. And, you know, whatever he gets, I do wish him the best. But it's not going to be here.
Yeah, Boris is such a good agent. He's going to be able to pry their money from somebody. I mean, if he, I just I guess I don't know. I guess I would like to see him go to Houston so he can be in his home state and I think really paired with Dallas Keuchel make an impact.
Yeah, go for another ring.
Oh, and I guess they have I forgot they have Verlander for. How much of Verlander's contract?
I think they
did
ate a
take
good
on,
chunk of it.
remember?
I don't think they ate 100% of it, but they ate a good chunk of it because the whole point of the Verlander trade, I shouldn't say the whole point because they did get assets back, but a lot of the great deal was to get for Detroit to shed money.
I'm looking it up now.
I want to say most, but
let's
we'll see what it says.
The Astros are on the hook for 40 of the 56
So a
million.
good chunk of it.
So maybe, so maybe we don't. Maybe that they're a hard. Maybe it's not as big of a probability of him going there. So I don't know. Maybe. Whew. I still think that they're a possibility. but it's starting because they still, even with adding him, they're not one of the upper echelon of the payroll, I don't think, because before they picked him up, they were 16th in payroll, and adding him probably moved them to top 10. And that's a big market franchise, and going to the World Series, I think it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I just think my strongest feelings are Angels and Braves. You know, it would be really interesting to see what kind of effort Baltimore would make to bring him back. Like I said, I'm not sure that will happen, but it would be kind of interesting to see him go back to where he started.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be fun to see. Right now, according to Spotrac, for 2018, as it stands right now, Dodgers are at 177 million, Giants are 166 million, Red Sox 158, Nationals 144, Seattle, Angels, Cardinals, Yankees, Rangers, Blue Jays. Wait, where are the Cubs in this? Cubs are 15th. Cubs got some money to play with here.
Yeah. They're saving for Bryce Harper.
Better save a lot. So Houston is at, for right now, for next year, 85 million, 85.8. They do have room to bring him in. They do. Orioles are at 91, but I don't think they're going to try to. I think they're going to try to stay under that 100 million mark.
Yeah.
Kansas City's over 100 million. Detroit is 102, but they're trying to pare that down. Yankees are at 117. I just don't think that with their youth movement, they're going to try to bring in an elderly pitcher.
Yeah, I think I don't see it at this point. I don't think that's going to happen.
Rockies are an interesting one because they're at 67.9. They could probably bring him in.
And they don't have that much pitching. I mean, they've added a bit more depth over the years, but they could use another good starter.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait for the Hot Stove League to hear the rumors.
Absolutely. The last thing I wanted to ask you was, who would you want to go after in terms of starting pitching? If there was one or two pitchers you wanted to add to the rotation, who would you be targeting? Or who do you think the Cubs would target realistically?
Man. Wow. Let me pull up a list of the free agents. Just sort by position here. Starting pitching. CC Sabathia, nope. Jeremy Hellickson, no. Anibal Sanchez, no. Lackey, no. Arrieta, I don't think he'll come back. Ubaldo Jimenez, no.
Please no.
Matt Garza, no way. Chris Tillman, no. Yu Darvish, I just don't see them going.
I don't see you, Darvish. There are two guys I see.
Yeah, hopefully you don't say Andrew Kashner.
No.
Not Lance Lynn.
I wouldn't mind Lance Lynn. If it was a cheap deal and you had him as a 4 or 5, I honestly wouldn't mind Lance Lynn.
All right, you're going to say Alex Cobb.
Yes.
And
it's really all there is. Oh, isn't Michael Pineda?
yeah, who else is even out there?
There's really not much. It's not a big free agent class.
Bartolo Colon.
No, 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 no.
So, so yeah, I would. They might bring in a cheap free agent or cheaper free agent option, and then they're gonna have to make a trade.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could get a Lynn or a Cobb on a decent deal to have him as a lower, maybe 4 or 5, solid guy you could rely on. And then you make another trade possibly, and everything else is set because you're going to have Lester, you're going to have Quintana, you're going to have Hendricks. It's 2 spots really that you're probably going to have to fill. And if you fill it with a solid signing and then either a trade or maybe you groom someone, I don't know. There's the whole hype around the one guy, Sohei Ohtani. A lot of people think the Yankees are going to get him, but, you know, I can dream, right? So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the Cubs' farm depth, they've got a lot of arms that are top of their minor league depth, but they're years away.
Right, you need something for next year.
Yeah, and there's nobody that's ready to make that step.
You might try Jung Ho Sang as a 5th starter for a little bit, but you're probably going to see them work more with Mike Montgomery to be a starter, but it's not like you're calling up the next big Steven Strasburg type guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Alex Lang is ready to come up.
Right.
So, yeah, you might see Dylan Maples get some a shot and Jen Ho Sang get a shot, but I don't think at this point having one of those guys in your rotation is going to lead to a World Series.
Right, you're going to need to make some moves here, and I have every confidence that Theo is going to be able to do it.
That's going to be his biggie. Is and my thing is, you might have to let go of somebody that you like to bring in somebody you need, and that need is a real leadoff hitter, and excuse me, that real leadoff hitter and another starting arm.
Yeah, I mean those are the 2 big things that are going to require some big moves, whether it's trade or a sign. And obviously the third thing is to rebolster a bullpen, but you know that can be done kind of differently. Those 2 things, solidifying the leadoff and starting pitching, those are the things you're going to have to make the moves on, and it's going to be an interesting winter meetings.
Yeah, and trading for an arm is going to require giving somebody up, and getting a real leadoff hitter is going to require moving somebody to open a position. Because right now is where, like, let's say you bring in a legitimate leadoff hitter. What position does he play? I mean, if you could mold him into being whatever position you want him to play, you've got first base, third base locked. You've got shortstop and second base. Got all 3 outfield positions. Got catcher. Where's that person playing? You're gonna have to move somebody to create room to put your leadoff hitter.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why, you know, when we lost Dexter Fowler, we said, well, we're losing our center fielder, but now we're bringing up Albert Almora Jr., so if you're trying to bring him up, then, you know, it's not like you could be like, let's get another center fielder for a leadoff guy, because that kind of sets Albert back, and you know, that's going to create a whole other conflict unless they trade Albert.
What if, I'm going to ask you this question now.
Mm-hmm.
What if the Cubs go into next season with Kyle Schwarber as their leadoff man?
Well, I think that there would be a lot of backlash, a lot of it. If they truly believe that he's improved and ready to do it and try it again, and they make that clear, I'm probably going to trust their word. But that's a really, really tough one. But, you know, maybe they feel that he's ready to do it. And, it's hard for me to really doubt anyone running this team right now. So I'm just going to kind of ride with it with some slight cautious optimism, if that were the case.
Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if it happens. I'm just looking at who is even available. I don't think you have the ammunition to trade for a starting pitcher and a leadoff man.
No, you don't. It'd be really hard. We can dream about having Christian Yelich, but I doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm looking at this free agent market. It's not the best of free agent markets.
No, it's not.
I mean, Lorenzo Cain is a free agent, but he is not the Lorenzo Cain of 4 years ago.
If we had Lorenzo Cain of 4 years ago, I'd be hyped.
Yeah. So it's going to be a very, very, very interesting offseason.
Yes, it is.
And I imagine that Jed and Theo have a roadmap of how they want to proceed in it. But it's going to be interesting to A, see what the roadmap is, and B, how close they can come to getting to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a long off season. There's going to be a lot of points where we're going to kind of stress out over what's going to happen. But I think at the end of the day, they're going to make the right calls. So I'm not going to worry too much.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this season without a leadoff hitter and with a bad bullpen how far they got. And with probably their best power hitter hitting garbage the whole season and still hit 30 home runs. So I'm not overly concerned if they have to piece things together and do leadoff man by committee. I still think they make it to the playoffs and make some noise, but it's going to be an interesting offseason indeed.
For sure.
I guess that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swirsky Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody for listening. Please make sure you hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether that's iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube. If you want to hit us up on social media, at ShyFanPat1, at Swirsky Sports, Facebook.com/Swirsky Sports, SwirskySports.com. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.